Absolutely no one expected this, as the Toronto Raptors have the 9th overall selection in this upcoming NBA draft, and there have been some major developments in terms of where players are projected to land out there in the top 10 of this draft. There are some new names that are being projected to land to the Toronto Raptors at number 9, and frankly, it really shakes up this draft process and how we are looking at the value of that number 9 overall selection. So we're going to break down what these latest developments are, why this has some Raptors fans absolutely elated, and just the overall current landscape of how the draft is looking based off of all the recent interviews that teams have been having with some of the top prospects. So lots of stuff to break down, but folks, we are delivering all of the latest updates regarding this Toronto Raptors team. So if you're part of the 48% that haven't hit the subscribe button just yet, make sure you guys hit that sub button so you don't miss a single thing that's going on with this team, because this draft, if no blockbuster trades happen, if no crazy KD moves end up going down over the next couple days, this draft is going to be one of the most important in Toronto Raptors history, because hopefully it's the last one we have before we kind of get back into contention, get back out there in the mix. And you know, we've been mocked for Common Malwatch, and still he's a guy that could potentially go in our range, a guy I'd be very excited about. But there's one new name that, frankly, has Raptors fans very, very amped up, and that is Ace Bailey. You've probably heard over the course of the season, Chase the Ace. He was a player that, again, Cooper Flagg was always the number one pick, the number one player that people expected to go number one. But Ace Bailey had some moments where people were like, oh, this guy's better. This guy's, has higher upside and all that type of stuff. And now we have a report essentially revealing that Bailey's and coming from Jonathan Givony of NBA Draft Express, Bailey's pre-draft workout strategy has perplexed some of the observers, as he has yet to conduct a single known workout to date, having declined invitations from several teams within his draft range. Sources say Bailey's camp has informed interested teams that they believe he is a top 3 player in the draft, but also seeks a clear pathway to stardom. Perhaps feeling comfortable that a team will trade up to get him at the number 3 or number 4 overall spot if he should drop. So that's an interesting approach. His agent taking something there. Maybe he has a target destination in mind or whatever the heck is happening with this. But Ace Bailey is a player that has started to fall down some different drafts. And basically, if we look at the recent mocks, he's fallen down to number 6. So he was a guy that was essentially guaranteed top 3 for the past year at this point. A lot of people had him number 2 for a chunk of this season. Now, Dylan Harper clearly separated himself in terms of the latest processes, in terms of the latest mocks, being the second best player available out there in this NBA draft. But Ace Bailey was pretty the clear number 3 for a large portion of the season. There was some buzz earlier in the offseason that, hey, maybe he'd fall, maybe not. But I haven't seen him mock close to 6 at any point. And just to give context into who he is, because that's still above number 9, he is a guy that, is 6'9". He has a 7 foot and a half, basically 7'1" wingspan. He's 18 years old. He's a sizable scorer. He does a lot out there on the offensive end. You can take a look at his stats. He's a solid athlete with a strong standing reach. Last season for Rutgers, he averaged 18 points per game. 1.3 assists, but 7.2 rebounds. Shot 70% from the free throw line, but 35% out there from 3. Just a bucket getter, a guy that can come out and really have an impact and has some high defensive upside. 1 steal per game, 1.3 blocks, and there's a lot of analysis in terms of, how good he is at the game. So we take a look at kind of his pros and cons, what he's able to do. He has elite size and athleticism at 6'10". He's a versatile 3-level scoring threat, so he can score inside, mid-range, and behind the 3-point line. He can really just put his game together all different places. He's a high-level shot blocker and rebounder, so he has those defensive intangibles that really take your game to the next level, like that you look at and say, oh, okay, this guy could be really great if he puts it all together, and just has high defensive upside across all positions. So I've heard a more athletic Michael Porter Jr. is kind of the comparison to Bailey. You watch him play, you get some of those vibes out there at this point, which, again, would be a phenomenal basketball player. MPJ is the guy that's on a max contract and stuff like that. Again, health has really derailed his career, but there are some stuff in regards to his weaknesses. So his loose handle in regards to limits creation. So he's a bucket getter, but the handle isn't crazy tight, so he gets pocket picked a little bit. Can sell for tough jumpers, so shot selection is a big thing that I've heard. It is a criticism of Ace Bailey's game. Low assist numbers and tunnel vision. He's a bucket getter. The possession ends here at MBJ. It's similar criticisms that have been thrown the way of Ace Bailey, and needs strength and defensive discipline. So one of the comparisons and, defensive discipline. So needs to put on some size. Most young players need defensive discipline. So those are all things to take a factor in, along with the weird workouts. But that's the reason a talent the caliber of an Ace Bailey is even being brought up at the, number 9 overall selection. Obviously, the Wizards are projected to land him now in the latest Draft Express draft that came out today, but is a player that has remarkable talent, like extremely high upside for the draft projections. And we've seen, even in the past couple of seasons, a guy that's projected to be top 4 fall out there in the draft with Cam Whitmore. And he ended up being a very solid basketball player, despite the fact he's on an absolutely loaded Houston Rockets team. So Bailey's a guy that, if he's available for the Toronto Raptors out at that number 6 overall, at the number 9 overall selection, Masai Ujiri should cook, right? Like, this would be an absolute, master. Some chefing up by Masai Ujiri if he's able to land Ace Bailey with the number 9 overall selection. Yes, there's risks. Yes, there's personality stuff, but at value, talent per value with that pick, it's a guy you just got to take that risk on. So, again, it's likely he gets picked off before, but, we've seen players free fall, and the Raptors might have that opportunity going forward. So keep your eye on all these Ace Bailey updates over the next little while. But in terms of the latest mock for the Toronto Raptors, we are projected right now to land Noah Essengue, who is a guy that is French. He's a raw prospect. And, the same way Malawatch is a guy that has extremely high upside. It's the type of draft players that Masai Ujiri has done in the past. Essengue fits that kind of mold. He's 6'9", has a long wingspan. He's, he's a guy that last season out there in, his team overseas, 12 points per game, ended up shooting 73% from the free throw line, 29% from the three-point stripe. Like, he's a raw prospect. Don't get me wrong. Don't, name him as a player. Like, he played in Germany, so these are some pretty good stats for overseas. But he's a guy who will take some development, but has extremely high defensive upside. In terms of his strengths and weaknesses, we take a look at, what he's able to do. His strengths, he's elite size and athletic tools. He's a switchable multi-positional defender. He has a high motor and rebounding effort, and productive cutter and transition scorer. So, high effort, high energy, high upside, just very much one of these raw international prospects that, if things come together, can really, have an impact in terms of development in this game. Do I expect immediate impact from Essengue? Probably not. It's probably a piece that needs to become a more smooth shooter and stuff, and this is where the weaknesses come into play. He's limited shot creation off the dribble. He's inconsistent with his long-range jumper. He's raw in terms of his playmaking, decision-making, and he's over-aggressive on defense at times, which something you'd rather see, I think, from a young player than being kind of soft and, lackadaisical out there on the defensive end. So a guy that projects extremely high upside, but also projects extremely high risk. And we've seen Masai Ujiri take these chances on prospects that, have come out and, shown high upside. You look at Bruno Caboclo in the past, but, they haven't necessarily hit. But you also have these players, his desire to draft a Giannis Antetokounmpo and these types of guys. Of course, it's unrealistic to be like, hey, this guy's going to be the next Giannis, he's going to be the next this, but you never expect any of these guys to really take that leap. So you're taking a little bit of a lottery ticket and drafting this guy, especially number 9 overall. I'd much prefer again an Ace Bailey or a Colin Malawatch or one of these dudes, but still, interesting piece. Plays the forward position, could be a versatile guy for this Raptors team. So we'll see how things shake out. Let me know what you guys think about all these draft developments. Subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date with everything that's going on. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.